There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, in Ethics of Our Fathers, that the Mishnah tells us, what's life all about? To do good. And if you do something which is truly good, you create an angel. And that angel is called an advocate. And when a person passes away, all the angels that he created present themselves on the day of judgment. Because when a person passes away, his life is evaluated, his record is evaluated and scrutinized, and you have advocate angels and you have prosecuting angels. The advocates were created through the performance of the commandments, the way one lived his life. The prosecuting angels were created through one's misdeeds. We hope that at the end of our lives, we have more advocate angels rather than prosecuting angels. Rav Chaim of Volozhiner explains what I'm talking about now is very fundamental to Jewish belief. When a person eats something healthy, nourishing, nutrition, how does the body respond to it? Very positively, because it nourishes the body. You hydrate the body. You eat food that oxygenates the blood. The person, his internal organs and the external organs are fully functioning. Because the body is what is attended to, the needs, in the most responsible way, and there the body responds positively to that. What happens if you ingest something which is destructive to the body? The body starts shutting down. You create certain deficiencies. As a result of deficiencies, the body starts atrophying. And this decline in health. The essence of human being is what? Is a soul. The body is not the person. The person is the soul. The body is to facilitate the objective of our spirituality. You do a good deed. You can't do a good deed with your soul. The soul motivates the body or dictates their body how we should act. And when you act that way, you utilize the body, which its value, its function is to facilitate and bring about the good deed. The result of that good deed is an infusion of positive energy into the soul, and the soul is perfected. However, if the person chooses to do the wrong thing, it creates a negative energy, and that negative energy puts a block on the soul. It minimizes the soul. So all one's life, it's literally a seesaw. We're infusing and we're detracting. One side you're building, the other side you're destroying. Person gets a blood transfusion and he has internal bleeding. You understand? As much blood as you put in, ultimately you can lose the blood. If the wound, the internal wound is large enough, the blood is going to escape. King Solomon says there's no perfect tzaddik. So we hope, despite the fact there's nobody's perfect, but our accomplishments, positive, are greater than our failings. We hope at the end of our life, nobody's perfect. And knowing we know he's perfect, we do tshuva. Of course, tshuva, repentance, addresses that level of imperfection that reinstates the person to where he failed. Failing is inevitable. I'm going to tell you a story now. I don't want it to be recorded. When a person does chesed, do an act of kindness, there are two sides to the equation. If a person could help a person and he does not help a person, and the person truly needs help, what is that an expression of? A person comes to you and he truly needs a piece of bread so he should continue living, and you deny him that bread. What is that called? It's called cruelty. A person's drowning and you're able to save him from drowning, and you don't, and let him drown. What is that called? Standing by while your brother's blood is being shed. That's what you're doing. If you have the ability to make a difference, you don't make the difference. There's a claim against you. How did you just gloss over it? How could you be so heartless? And the different degrees of heartlessness. Something which is blatantly clear. He truly needs help. You could help him and you should help him. And you turn your back on that person. Very serious claim against that person who denied that person that help. Another person, his needs are not as extreme, but you can make his life easier. And your life is easy. And helping him doesn't mean much. Of course, you could judge. If I help him, there's no end to how many people I could help. Right? That's the approach. And therefore, people, they just shut down. I have a policy, I help no one. Because since I can't discern who yes, who not, I help nobody. A person has money, and he does deals. Some you win, some you lose. I do no deals because I may lose. And what do you do with your money? Just let it sit. You understand? Since there's a potential you could succeed, whatever you could do, you do. And the ones you can't do, you don't do. But again, we delude ourselves. Just as a person could create a habit which is negative, you could create a certain habit, a conditioning, which is positive. It's called positive conditioning. A person hasn't been mentored to give money. So you say you don't give money, but you're a person who's gifted. You can advise people. You can help people. Doesn't that be financial? But once you get a person involved in developing his givingness, ultimately he'll give money. The only reason why he's shut down and he's self-contained is because he doesn't know, he hasn't been trained to go outside of himself. But it's a process. You have to start somewhere. And if you start at a certain point, ultimately, if you do it right, you'll end up where you should end up. You could become a major philanthropist. Because the more you see the value of your contribution, which is the return on your investment, you have an appreciation of doing for the other person, even means financial outlay. Because you're the beneficiary. You spend money to buy food. Why? But you're a miserly person because it's for me. As long as you experience that ultimately you'll be the beneficiary of your giving, ultimately even giving money. Giving, you see, you're the one who gains because you're getting something in return. You appreciate its value because you've already been sensitized to doing for another person. So it's an approach. A human being, the way God created us, is a creature of habit. I'm using the word creature of habit. Whatever we habituate ourselves with, whatever we condition ourselves, that's what we become. Whether it's for good or for bad, you assume behavior which is unacceptable, you do it long enough, that's what you become. You condition yourself positively, ultimately that's what you become. I'm shut down, and I assume a certain behavior pattern, which begins sensitizing me for certain things. It will intensify, and ultimately you'll be open and receptive to whatever that may be in the positive. or Shiva used to say, we find when it speaks about giving charity, it says when a poor man approaches you, you should open your hand and extend it to help him. And then it says, Lo yeira levavcha, but you should not feel bad in your heart. So literally means when you give it away, don't feel that you've given up, because ultimately you'll be the beneficiary of God's blessing. Don't think you were conned or you had a weak moment, that's what you gave it away. No. What you did is right, and ultimately you'll experience the return on that, what you did. Therefore, your heart should not feel bad. Shouldn't have that bad feeling. But somebody once said, he had said, Lo yarav lavcha means when you give charity, you shouldn't give it with your heart, because your heart feels bad. You feel it should be cerebral. You should understand its value. Ultimately, your heart is touched, but it should not be solely based on your feelings, because if it's feelings, you could be misled. You could be convinced something is and it's really not. So therefore, it has to be first, you have to make an evaluation. You have to do your due diligence. After you do your due diligence and you give, now you know you've done, but still you're giving it away. Don't have any regret, because ultimately God will repay you. But if it's purely based on your heart, because you feel bad for that person, you go immediately, you're going to be victimized, or you're vulnerable already to be victimized. Not necessarily victimized, but you're vulnerable to be victimized. You know, when I was a student in the yeshiva, my Rosh Yeshiva, was the head of the yeshiva, used to tell us, it's important to study with younger students. Take a younger student and study with them. So even though you're 20 years old, study with a 15-year-old boy. He was a high school student. And by doing that, you're doing chesed with that student. You know so much more with him than him. Your time is valuable. Nevertheless, it's worthwhile to give up time, because that 15-year-old student will be a beneficiary that he wouldn't have unless you would study with him. And as a result of that, he would say, God will compensate you. How? That certain things that you couldn't come upon within your own development, because you gave of yourself for somebody else's development, God will assist you to develop for the time that you gave up. So chesed is at every level.